Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we are going to be going over the worst, quote-unquote, worst overclocks for each of the weapons for Scout. We already did this with the best overclocks for each of the weapons with Scout, and that was an extremely subjective video, as well as this one will be an extremely subjective video too. I really want to emphasize that most of these overclocks are not that bad. A lot of them are actually really good, and certain weapons don't have anything but good overclocks, but these are just my choices. Tell me what your thoughts are and what your picks would be in the comments down below. This is just meant to be for fun, so please keep that in mind, and try to keep things civil down in the comments below. Again, this isn't to harp on anything. This is just made for fun. So, starting out, we have the GK2, which a lot of people don't really care for the GK2, which I think is fair. Could use some extra love. It could use some more interesting overclocks because a lot of them aren't that interesting. A lot of them are kind of basic, which also makes it so a lot of the overclocks are pretty decent. The GK2 I don't think really has any bad overclocks. The one that I'd pick for its worst overclock is going to be Homebrew Powder, just because I personally don't really care for the inconsistency of it. You can build the Assault Rifle all damage, and that makes up for the lack of inconsistency, because then then you can't low roll on things like Swarmers, as well as you can high roll, and you can do pretty well with this. But again, it's just the inconsistency problem for me. It's just not something I really like. What Homebrew Powder does is it randomizes your damage between 80% and 140%, giving you an average of 110% of your damage. But these numbers can fluctuate, and if you're not building damage, again, you can low roll and not be able to one-shot Swarmers. That is pretty annoying, at least in my opinion. That's really the only reason why it's here. The rest of the GK2's overclocks are pretty solid, I would say. They range from just a nice little bonus to pretty decent, like Bolts of Mercy or the Faster Rate of Fire, AI Stability Engine. You have some pretty good ones there. Up next, we have the M1000, and this one's more of an easy choice for me. I'm going to pick Super Cooling Chamber on this one. Even though Super Cooling Chamber can be really good on certain missions, namely elimination missions, it does kind of fall short in regular missions just because its lack of utility in most situations. You get a lot more damage, at least when using focus shots, but you can't move when you're using your focus shots. Your focus shot speed is much lower, and you get a lot less ammo. It's just too many trade-offs for what you get, and a damage bonus is not super significant compared to some of the other mods that you get with this one. I wish that this one would get buffed. I think that it could just use a slight increase in maybe base damage or in terms of focus speed or something. I don't mind the lack that you can't move or the lack of ammo. So moving on to the Drak. The Drak is one of those weapons that doesn't have any bad overclocks. It has nothing but pretty good overclocks, which makes this really difficult for me to pick one. And I'm going to be very specific and kind of stingy on this one. So for me, I'm just going to pick Rewire Mod. I know a lot of people really like Rewire Mod, and I can completely understand why. I think it has its place, and it can be super useful on a lot of missions. So again, this isn't like it's the worst overclock in the entire game. No, it's actually probably one of the better overclocks. And again, it's a pretty good overclock overall. You get a lot more value from it, especially if you can keep triggering it. You get tons of ammo out of this. But it's not always necessary, in my opinion. Especially on certain missions, it doesn't do well on salvage missions, and it doesn't do well on escort missions. Any time-sensitive mission like that, or I guess objective-held mission, it is difficult to keep getting the value out of this and still kind of make it work to fight off things. That's why I don't really care for it. If you're in super long, drawn-out missions, though, like if you have a point-and-strike mission that's going for a really long time, then yeah, Rewire Mod can be fantastic because you're just not running out of bullets. The same thing goes with like an egg hunt mission. If you have multiple hordes during the egg hunt and you can move around the cave really frequently, then Rewire Mod is fantastic for that. I could have also picked, I guess, Shield Battery Booster here, but I think Shield Battery Booster is a little bit better. It's just the fact that, well, if you have Shield Disruption, Shield Battery Booster is nothing but a hindrance then at that point, and it's not great in certain biomes, but even then, you can kind of work around it, and that depends on how safe you are. I'm kind of interested to see what people will pick for their least favorite mod on the Drak. Again, I actually like them all, but that one, I guess, would be my least favorite. So moving on to the secondaries, we have the Jury-Rigged Boomstick. This one's an easy one to pick from. This one goes to Double Barrel. This one gives you 1 more damage per shot, or I guess 1 more damage per pellet per shot, and you are forced to fire out both barrels every time that you want to shoot it. That's not good. That's really not great. It works fine against big enemies if you only want to use this on elimination missions again, or only use it for like Praetorians and Oppressors. It's fine, but there's so many times where I don't want to use the boomstick for that. I want to just use it for clearing up small enemies. And small enemies, you don't need both barrels to kill them most of the time. Most of the time, it just takes 1 barrel. And it just gets outcompeted by pretty much all of the other overclocks that Double Barrel has. It gets directly outcompeted with Stuff Shells, which is another clean overclock that gives you 1 point of damage like this one, but it gives you 1 more pellet. So you get even more damage from it, and you don't have to fire out both barrels every time you want to shoot the gun. Then we move on to the Zookavs, and we have another weapon that has 0 bad overclocks. It only has 5 in total, and I use all of them pretty frequently. So I guess the one that I would pick that's the least good, least useful to me would probably be custom casings, the balanced one that lowers your combined rate of fire, but increases your clip size. You don't really need that extra clip size with the Zookavs. It's not a bad thing or anything, and the rate of fire decrease is honestly not bad either. I can't really tell that much of a difference. You could also just take faster rate of fire in tier 2, and then you have nothing but a bonus with clip size. And this is another one of those weapons where I don't really have much to say about it. Nothing but good overclocks, and this one is just the one that I pick because I feel like it'd be unfair if I just don't pick certain overclocks for certain weapons. Then we move on to the Boltshark crossbow, and this one's another really hard one to pick. Worst overclock, or again, worst overclock for, because I don't think it really has any bad ones. I guess I would pick the cryo bolts because they aren't as useful as the fire bolts are, and you have cryo arrow and you have the cryo grenades already. So if you want to freeze things, you can do that. You could also take cryo minelets on the Zookavs, which are pretty good. That's really the only reason why I'm picking the cryo arrows. They're still really good if you want to shoot a cryo arrow onto something and then shoot like a pheromone bolt onto it. You can freeze hordes of enemies that way and clear them up really easy, and it does still have its place. With how common people run cryo grenades, I don't think you also need cryo bolts, but it wouldn't be a bad addition to it. Again, another weapon that has nothing but good overclocks. Thanks for suggesting this video, guys. It is fun to make these, even though it's really difficult sometimes, especially when you're picking the worst or the best, because my tastes go back and forth so often because I'm just trying out so many builds. And it's also really mission dependent as well as team dependent. So again, don't take any of this super seriously, I would say. Use whatever the heck you like, especially if you find something extremely fun. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos just like this, and if you'd like to be a part of it, you can. There are links down in the description of this video. Thanks to everybody who does that. I do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!